Kingda is the world's tallest coaster, but another park may be about to destroy it.
128, 3.5, 456, 0. Memorize these answers because once you ride Kingda, the tallest, fastest roller coaster on Earth, who knows what you'll remember? How fast did it go? 128 miles per hour. How many seconds to get to full speed? 3.5. How many feet in the air did you fly? 456. How many coasters in the world are like it? 0.
Kingda stands 456 feet in the air, and since 2005 when it first opened, no one has managed to break its height record. In the next 10 years, I think a park will finally break the 500-foot barrier and destroy Kingda's record forever.
Today, ride the tallest, fastest roller coaster on Earth because Kingda is now open.
To build the world's tallest coaster, a park needs a lot of space, you need to be willing to spend a lot of money, and they need to make sure the coaster will have a good return on investment. There are many parks around the world that have enough space and money to build a 500-foot coaster, but the reason they haven't is because they are afraid they won't get a good return on investment. Now you may be wondering, isn't a 500-foot coaster the best possible coaster to open? Wouldn't it draw crowds from around the world and increase profits for the park? Well, the truth is, it's not that simple. A 500-foot coaster is a huge risk. It could be too intense for the general public, like what happened with the I-305, or it could even give the park maintenance nightmares, like the case with the Intamin accelerators. No park is going to spend over $30 million on a coaster that may only be able to operate half the time due to wind and reliability issues, which is exactly why the 500-foot record hasn't been broken yet. But I think that's about to change. I think we are getting close to the first 500-foot coaster finally being built, and you won't believe which manufacturer I think will build it. There are a few different parks that can build the world's tallest coaster, and there are a few different manufacturers that can do it as well. We know Intamin is capable of reaching 500 feet as they've been the closest yet, but Intamin's tall coasters have had at most two elements, a top hat and a giant Airtime hill. That's where B&M comes in. Believe it or not, the tallest coaster with a lift hill currently is one made by B&M, and it's actually reliable, has great capacity, and is one of the best coasters of all time. Fury 325 may only go 325 feet above ground, but it's still territory we've never seen Intamin go with a traditional lift hill style coaster. We know B&M can probably reach the 400-foot mark if someone were to pay the right price, and if they did, we know it would be a fun, smooth, and reliable ride with great capacity. But could B&M reach 500 foot? 325 feet is a long way from 500. Then there's RMC, who've never built a coaster even closer to the 300 foot mark. But of course, we know the T-Rex model can supposedly go 400 to 500 feet. Obviously, there are other manufacturers that may be able to build the world's tallest coaster, for example Mack or S&S, but for this video, I'm going to stick with the big three, Intamin, B&M, and RMC. I think we will see at least one 500-foot coaster in the next 10 years, and I think it may go to a shocking park. When thinking of breaking the height record, we obviously have to rule out parks with a height limit, parks that are landlocked, and parks that can't afford such a large attraction. Falcon's Flight is rumored to be 500 foot, and as of now, it looks like it might actually happen, but for this video, I'm going to focus on parks in the US only. Immediately, Cedar Point stands out as a park that could build the first 500-foot coaster. They've done it with the 200, 300, and 400 in the past, so why not do it again? Well, the issue here is Cedar Point doesn't have much space left, and they probably wouldn't want to work with Intamin again on such a large project. Can they open a massive B&M or RMC T-Rex? 100%, but I don't think it's something that will happen in the next 10 years. They wouldn't have room for such a massive attraction, and even if they did, I think after all that happened with Thrill Dragster over the years, they'd wait until they were confident the coaster wouldn't be another nightmare. If Cedar Fair won't open a 500-foot coaster, I doubt any other Cedar Fair park would. But Kings Island might. The chain loves this park, and they have a lot of room they could use to build a massive new thrill machine. A 500-foot RMC T-Rex could go to Kings Island in the next 10 years, but I think there's a more likely park a 500-foot coaster gets built at. Most people would rule out the Six Flags chain because of budget. But with the new CEO, I think I have to consider it. Even if Six Flags managed to afford a massive new coaster, they don't really have many parks they can put it at. Out of the chain's 4 major parks, only one could house a coaster this massive. Magic Mountain doesn't really have much space to work with, and both Great America and Fiesta Texas have height limits. That leaves Six Flags Great Adventure, but why would the Six Flags chain spend an absurd amount of money to build a 500-foot coaster and break Kingda's record at the park that Kingda is at? I mean, it's one thing if they would be taking the record from someone else, but why throw so much money at a new coaster just to break your own record? Then there's a SeaWorld chain which only has a few possible parks. SeaWorld Orlando and the Busch Gardens parks are the only parks large enough to get such a massive investment. But would SeaWorld really want to build a 500-foot coaster? I definitely could see them getting something huge, but I doubt they'd be interested in working with Intamin for a plain old accelerator model. Maybe they could get a B&M or RMC to go up to 500 feet, but I think they're more likely to open B&M Gigas at their parks in this next decade. Maybe they can surprise us with a 500-foot B&M or RMC, but how realistic is that? Yeah, SeaWorld has been opening a lot of coasters recently, but are they willing to spend $30 to $40 million on a single coaster? Herschend isn't building a 500-foot coaster. I mean, maybe they're willing to spend a lot on new rides, but they aren't going to go all out and build such a massive thrill machine. But then again, they did open the first ever Mack Extreme Spinner, so I guess you never know. Disney definitely has the budget to afford a 500-foot coaster. They probably could have opened 10 of them if they wanted instead of their newest coaster. They spent $500 million on an indoor coaster, which is the most ever spent on a coaster, so budget is not an issue for them. But Disney is a family park, and no matter how cool a 500-foot coaster is, it sure ain't a family coaster. That leads me to the final park I believe could open a massive 500-foot coaster in the next 10 years. A park that has been thriving like never before and fits all the criteria needed to build such a massive attraction. They have enough space, enough money, and though I couldn't find a clear answer to this, it seems they don't have a height limit. This park is Universal's Epic Universe. Universal Orlando shocked us all when they opened the $300 million Hagrid's coaster in 2019. The coaster was themed really well, but at the same time offered a great thrilling experience for families to enjoy. 2 years later though, Universal would open a coaster that would change the coaster industry forever. VelociCoaster opened in 2021 to rave reviews, and the combination of the Intamin launch coaster thrills with the spectacular theming make for the perfect package. VelociCoaster is a real thrill ride, which is something I think separates Universal from Disney. You can go to Universal with your family and you'll have a great time. But if you're into thrills, there's some amazing roller coasters they have to offer. Universal works really well with both Intamin and B&M. So how far-fetched would it be for them to build a massive $50 million B&M Giga in the next 10 years? Well, I guess if the B&M reached 500 feet, it wouldn't be called Giga anymore. Out of all the manufacturers able to build a 500-foot coaster, I think B&M will be the first. They've been moving slow and steady, but as the saying goes, slow and steady wins the race. B&M won't get too aggressive, but in the last decade, we've seen them break the 300-foot mark. I honestly think a 500-foot B&M is around the corner, and at this point, the only thing stopping it from happening, in my opinion, is its price. Why would a park want to build a better Kingda if they can build another Fury 325? Well, I think we will very possibly see a B&M that finally beats Fury and Kingda at the same time. I think another coaster will beat Fury 325 first. Carowinds is due for a new coaster, and I think they are about to build their best one yet. A coaster that will destroy Fury 325 and possibly even become the best coaster in the world. That's why I made an entire video on Carowinds' next coaster, and you need to watch it. Carowinds is about to build one of the craziest coasters of all time. I couldn't be more excited.